This is Our News, the weekend edition, and on the broadcast tonight, the country's murder count reaches double digits as 2 men are shot and killed, the third in 2 days. Plus, victims of the Haitian boat tragedy funeralized today, and the Ministry of Tourism reveals its new Flyaway campaign.
Our News is brought to you by LOUBY.
Good evening, I'm Andrew Nold, and thanks so much for joining us. It's become a bloody weekend as police opened up the books on 2 more murder investigations this morning. The separate shootings, which claimed the lives of 2 men, occurred in the same vicinity and within an hour of each other. The first incident took place on Washington Street and Balfour Avenue shortly after 9 this morning.
The male victim was at a local establishment in that area where he was accosted by a lone gunman who shot him multiple times. However, EMS was able to take that victim to the hospital where he went to undergo medical attention, but apparently he succumbed some half hour later. That incident occurred shortly after 9 a.m.
Then a short while later, police would be called to another fatal shooting, this time at a business establishment on Robinson Road and Miami Street, just a short distance away from the first shooting.
The police, as we unfold the investigation, received information that that person was here at this establishment where he was accosted by a lone gunman wearing a dark hooded jacket who shot him multiple times. He succumbed to those injuries on scene.
Given the timing and close proximity of the 2 shootings, Cash was questioned on whether these incidents are possibly connected.
Again, the investigations are a bit early. We know that they are in close proximity, and we don't really want to go on a limb to say that they are connected, but we are going to investigate them with a view of determining what really happened and whether or not they are connected.
This is the 3rd homicide in 2 days. Just yesterday morning, 1 man was killed and another injured while attending a social event in a Haitian village off Calpin Road. Superintendent Cash says police will now beef up its patrols in these areas.
In recent times, we identified that there were several shooting incidents in this area, and the police has doubled its efforts with a view of preventing any further acts of violence or death in this community. On the back of these 2 latest homicides, we're going to again add some additional resources to this area so we could prevent and stop matters like this from occurring in this area.
Still on news from the crime beat, police discovered 8 marijuana fields in North Andros in 2 separate incidents. Thanks to a joint operation involving the Drug Enforcement Unit, U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency, and officers from the North Andros District. Officers, while on air patrols, were over San Andros and covered 4 marijuana fields, and with the assistance of Andros Division, officers uprooted a total of 9,700 marijuana plants. An additional 4 marijuana fields were also discovered, and officers uprooted 84,810 plants. Police say all the fields were later destroyed by fire. No arrests were made, and investigations continue. Meantime, officers of the Central Detective Unit making a drug seizure here in the capital on Friday. Officers acting on information went to a vessel at Petoskey Dock, which had arrived from Exuma, and recovered 2 boxes containing 17 packages of suspected marijuana. The illegal substance weighed 100 pounds with a street value of $100,000. No arrests were made in this incident. Well, mourners said goodbye to those who lost their lives in that boating accident in waters off Abaco last weekend. The Haitian Embassy holding a funeral service for 22 of the 31 Haitians that drowned in waters off Abaco. Embassy officials revealing that 9 of those victims were buried on Abaco. The sloop they were traveling ran aground last Sunday. During this afternoon service, members of the clergy, community leaders, and embassy officials gave tributes to those men and women who they said died trying to find a better life. The National Emergency Management Agency said that 83 people were on board the boat at the time of the incident, leaving 34 people unaccounted for. The Embassy of Haiti organized the service. Our news will have full coverage of that funeral in tomorrow's newscast. In other news, National Security Minister Marvin is firing back at the opposition over their queries into the functionality of the Sandy Bottom project in the wake of that Haitian boat tragedy in waters of Abaco. Dame says the PLP should be the last to ask about that project when he says they left it in shambles during their administration. Jasmine Brown reports.
Opposition leader Philip Brave Davis said on Tuesday the tragic incident involving a Haitian sloop that ran aground in waters off Abaco last weekend raises questions about the Sandy Bottom project's functionality. This was Dame's response.
It hasn't been successful to this point because when we came in, I shouldn't say it hasn't been successful. We met a mess. Where do you want me to start from? It was a total mess. All right? We had to work assiduously to bring it to some semblance of order. Do you want me to give you the rundown on the mess that we met?
And Dames did not stop there.
We still have vessels that have to leave Nassau, travel south, right? And when they run low on fuel, guess where they have to go? They have to come back to Nassau. That's the Sandy Bottom project that we met. That's the mess. That's one of the mess that we met when we came into power. We still have vessels down at the Defense Force Base where the Bahamian people's monies had been invested, right? And there is no shore power.
The Sandy Bottom project was commissioned under the Christie administration and cost taxpayers $232 million. In his mid-year budget communication last March, Dames indicated that in addition to being an estimated 3 years behind schedule, some remaining aspects of the project would have to be paid out from the Royal Bahamas Defense Force's capital development budget over the next 2 fiscal cycles. He also said the Christie administration's lack of strategic plans stalled a project designed to help the decentralization of the Defense Force's operations. He recently reiterated those claims to our news team.
This is part of when you invest in something, there is no foresight as it relates to planning. All right? So we spend on average $10,000 a month. This is in all of my contributions during the budget. Okay? $10,000 a month to provide fuel to keep those boats on the power while they're at the base. Okay, so you can imagine the wear and tear that it is putting on those vessels. Now we have to find close to $400,000, all right, to correct that problem.
The Sandy Bottom project was announced in mid-2014. A loan with a European bank facilitated $145 million to build each of the ships and an additional $75 million to cover civil works for a total of $224 million. The remaining $8 million accommodated any changes that might have arisen during the scope of the project. Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
All right, thanks a lot, Jasmine. Well, the Ministry of Tourism releasing a new campaign in the city that never sleeps, New York. Our Kyle Joaquin was there and has more.
A new campaign and a major boost for the Bahamas' tourism product, and it was all unveiled right here in New York City. Take a look. It's a partnership like none other. The islands of the Bahamas and music icon Lenny Kravitz coming together for the Fly Away campaign.
The islands of the Bahamas. Fly away.
One of the things that we talked about is that music, it gets to the soul of people. And you know, you hear a song and it transports you to a place. And so of course we thought about the Bahamas. And it was, what was it about the Bahamas? What would transport you away? And just that tagline, the title of that song, Fly Away. And so simultaneously, I don't know which came first, Lenny, the song, but putting them together, it was just a natural fit.
Before a host of international media, the Ministry of Tourism unveiled the new campaign in New York. And the ministry flew in some of the most unique of Bahamian talent, from Marv, the mixologist, to Rumpum, the drummer, and of course, Jamal Roll, the celebrity artist. The campaign uses the storytelling of Kravitz about his Bahamian roots and why he fell in love with the islands of the Bahamas.
My first memories of the Bahamas were just magical. The smell and the feel of the air, and you were transformed from that moment. It was like going to another world.
I wish that I could fly. So it just really has so much to offer. It's unique. You never get bored of it. So many people think of the Bahamas as just Nassau, but that's really the tip of the iceberg. When you go off and explore the rest of the Bahamas, you're just completely wowed by how beautiful it is and how friendly and incredible the people are and how the culture differs on every single different island. So it's well worth the visit.
Now, if you're wondering where exactly the ads are going, according to the Minister of Tourism, everywhere.
Well, 76% of our foreign visitors come from the United States. Add another 7 or 8% come from Canada. 85% of our foreign visitors come from North America. But Lenny Kravitz, he has a pull across the world. And so Europe, Asia, he is well known in those markets. So our intention obviously is to grow those markets. That is where the potential is. And so we're looking at expanding our reach, not being so dependent on North America, but not losing sight of the fact that that's our core market. That's where most of our visitors come from.
Enjoy the moment.
I wanna fly away.
For our news, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Well, what you'd also notice in the Ministry of Tourism's new campaign are a lot of things you'd only see in the Family Islands, like swimming pigs. Tourism Director General Joy Jubileau said the ministry is still working on getting more visitors to see the Bahamas as more than just Nassau.
In fact, it is our plan that 16 islands that we actively promote, each and every single one of them will have stories told about them. So far, we've completed a series of stories on Eleuthera, Harbour Island, Freeport, and New Providence. So we've done Kungchak at Porter's Key, we've done a Junkanoo story in Nassau, we've done People to People. In fact, what we've done that has just been iconic, we've talked about all the murals in Nassau. I mean, it is just incredible. And we've just finished shooting in Exuma, and the idea is before the end of this fiscal year, we'll also get to Andros and to the Abacos.
During the campaign, you'll also notice Kravitz working along with young musicians, hanging out with locals and speaking with kids. Jubileau said their plan is to keep in line with the use of storytelling.
And we want to roll out stories so that that sense of pride is infused in everyone from all 16 of our islands. So it'll probably take, because of budget, unless Minister can do his magic, it'll probably take another 2 to 3 years to do all of them, and then we start again.
Well, shifting to other news tonight, opposition leader Philip Brave Davis says he believes there are grounds for a civil suit following the acquittal of former PLP Senator Frank Smith. But Davis was quick to add that he doesn't think Smith can be compensated monetarily for what he has been put through over the last 17 months.
We're going to see now whether they are righting the ship. I want to see now whether the Damascus moment will appear to them as it has just appeared in respect to Obama, in respect to this matter, and they do the right thing.
Smith, who was also the former chairman of the Public Hospitals Authority, was arrested in July of 2017 and accused of demanding and receiving thousands of dollars from Barbara Hanna from 2016 to 2017 after allegedly helping her company win the contract to clean the critical care block of the Princess Margaret Hospital. Last Friday, Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt acquitted Smith of all 15 criminal charges after finding fault with numerous inconsistencies and discrepancies in the Crown's case, which she said further undermined by its own witnesses. The ruling came after Smith's attorney made a no-case submission.
Why hasn't an investigation been launched? The government of transparency needs to tell the public.
A community activist is speaking out on his dissatisfaction of the search for missing children. Here's Giorgio Bain.
Community activist LOUBY Georgia says he was dissatisfied with the search efforts to locate 12-year-old Yolanda Massadine, who was reported missing nearly 2 months before she was picked up by police.
I was very dissatisfied with the entire thing. As an individual who would have played a role in trying to help to find this young lady, how am I, as a father also of daughters, to feel any comfort in our systems, in our process, the police and whatever agencies may be involved when a young lady can go missing for over a month or nearly 2 months, all right? And she's found. We hear nothing about who was harboring her. We hear nothing about charges being levied upon anybody.
Our News interviewed Yolanda's mother, Natasha Jean, on the 29th of January. She was found on the 31st. Since then, the preteen has been at the Girls Industrial School, a punishment that Georges doesn't think she deserves.
She's taken to Girls Industrial School, so to say, and we knowing that that is not a rehabilitative type of environment. You're taking this young lady who would have ran away from home and who may have been talked into staying wherever she may have been. You're taking her now and housing her in this environment with troubled young ladies who may have been a part of criminal activities, and you're putting her there. Like, how does this help her?
Georges says tougher penalties need to be given to those harboring runaway children.
This is a 12-year-old girl. How does she just stay in your house for 2 months? And it's all over social media, it's all over WhatsApp, it's all over the news, and none of your antennas are raised as an adult to say, you know what, you need to go home, or I'm going to call your parents, and I'm going to call the police to come to my house and pick you up and say, listen, she's at my house, she's a friend of my daughter, something to that effect. Nothing? Like, we've never heard of the people who harbor these young girls being charged, and she's not the first one.
Reporting for Our News Weekend Edition, I'm Georgia Bain.
And we will take our first break here, but still ahead tonight, find out how likely it is for government to meet its revenue goal. That story and more when Our News, the Weekend Edition, returns.